Okay, next up is a film called Mother and Child, and I gotta tell you, and it, you know, in the last little while of the storytelling in movies, I gotta say Rodrigo Garcia, another name I like to say. I love to say Spanish names. You know, he's made a name for himself as a television director with TV shows that I like such as Carnival, 6 Feet Under, and even In Treatment. Now, as a filmmaker, he's very interested in the lives, I guess you say, of women and the different intricacies that really just follow them. And he often likes to connect storylines that intertwine. Now, again, in movies, that's very dangerous. And overloading it with a cast of great actors is dangerous because it just gets cluttered. And just because you stick great actors in a bad movie doesn't mean it's good. But this is not a bad movie, and I'm glad to say it isn't. Now, he really made his mark in 2005 with a film called 9 Lives and a follow-up television movie called Fathers and Sons. Now, again, the relationships and the different tackling of intertwining is carefully handled here, like he does in his other projects. And that is very important here. Now, I also got to say, this is what you do with a film with big stars. You don't enhance the fact that there's big stars in it. Sure, you can bill it that way on the poster, but don't make that the driving point. Make the movie the driving point. That's exactly what he does here. Okay, now here's how this film gets underway. Now, almost 40 years ago, a young girl of 14 gets pregnant and gives her baby up for adoption. Now, we fast forward to where we are now, in the present day, 2010. We meet 3 very different women who all struggle to maintain the major control of their lives. There's Elizabeth, played by the always great Naomi Watts. She's a successful lawyer who sadly has to use her body to her advantage. And any time that she feels that she doesn't have the upper hand, boom, it always goes into the major aspect of sex appeal. And whether that be starting a romance with her boss, and somewhat of a borderline scummy role played by Samuel L. Jackson, she suspects he's trying to start one himself, or finding some way to control an overly friendly neighbor and a husband played by Carla Gallo and Mark Blucas. Now, Karen, Annette Bening, meanwhile, is a bitter healthcare professional. And I love Annette Bening playing bitter, angry characters, let me tell you. Especially in American Beauty, if you haven't seen that one yet. And she gave up her daughter at the age of 14. And that is what she's holding back. She is indeed that woman who has grown up, and she has never, ever gotten over it. And she just lashes out at everyone behind her. Think House without the wittiness. Okay. And of course, we get the guy who's drawn to her, sees the charm beneath the bitterness, played by Jimmy Smits, formerly of NYPD Blue fame. Now we get finally Lucy, who's played by the always good Kerry Washington, and she is a woman who has failed to conceive with her husband, so she turns to adoption to be the family she desires. Now, as you see already that it all connects and intertwines in story and characters. Now, each of these characterizations could easily be stereotypical or, you know, superficial or just plain TV, movie, soap opera, melodrama. But it doesn't fall into that trap. It's very, very real, a little too real at times, I think. Now, Elizabeth is, at once both amazingly smart woman who wants to lash out at the society that may undervalue her, and I can sometimes relate in terms of that aspect, and a critically damaged person who emotionally isolates herself in, you know, a desperate attempt for preservation. Now, as people like Paul, played by Samuel L. Jackson, who enter her life and just challenge her attitudes, really you can see her desperate, you know, attempt at isolation and crumble, you know, and she crumbles and morph and rebuild themselves. Now, similarly, Karen must also learn to let her guard down and heal the bitterness towards, you know, that she feels towards her own mother for making her give up her daughter. Now, there's a lot of detachment issues in this film, and I love just how they really focus on that, and it really just drives the point where it gets at you, you know what I mean? Now, she has to forgive herself, and again, you know, these are all characters with many problems. Even the littlest characters, you can really get something from in this film. Now, again, another point in this film is uncertainty, you know, uncertainty of what lies ahead and what they really want in terms of, you know, right there, right now, in their immediate future. And it seems as though the way that this movie handles itself beautifully along the way in terms of its, you know, bitterness and sadness is a great combination of everything that a film like this needs. It hits at every emotion. It tugs at every emotional, you know, aspect of your, you know, your lows in your brain. And I loved the way they did it. It could have fallen into the trap of a typical chick flick, but it didn't. Mother and Child really relies on its cast to I guess you could say, build the movie up, not just be in the movie and be big stars to promote it. And also what I like about Washington's character is that she's more of a toned down version of the Jennifer Garner character in the film Juno, which you know I love. And she really plays it well as, you know, the eagerly, you know, awaiting mother. And I love Kerry Washington in that type of role. She really pulls it off quite well. She handles it with ease and, you know, steadiness. Mother and Child never ever succumbs to going the easy way and taking the, you know, the cop out. And it could. It very well could. At points I thought it would, but it didn't. Sometimes I should have more faith in movies, but seeing a lot of movies with ensemble casts lately have really let me down. So for all that, Mother and Child gets 4 stars out of 5.